we're on page 29, we're up to the prayer Hashem Melech, Hashem Melech, Hashem Yimlech Le'olam Va'ed. And when we say this prayer, we actually rise, we stand up, even if you're not saying the prayer because you're in a different place. But if you're in the congregation, when everyone stands up, you also stand up. You don't say the prayer, you say whatever you're davening, but everyone stands up out of respect. Hashem Melech, Hashem Melech, Hashem Yimlech. There's no such verse. This is actually taken from 3 different verses. Hashem Melech is in Psalm 10, and also we find it in a later Psalm. Hashem Melech is in Psalm 93. Hashem Melech Geis Love. Hashem was king. Hashem Yimlech is in the song of the splitting, after the splitting of the sea, as Yashir, in Exodus, in Beshalach. Hashem Yimlech Le'olam Va'ed. Hashem will be king forever. Now, why the order? It sounds very strange. Is king, was king, will be king? Usually it's past, present, and future. You should have said Hashem Melech, Hashem Melech, Hashem Yimlech. Also, why doesn't he start with the biblical? Usually you start with a verse from the Torah, Hashem Yimlech. Then you go to the Psalm in order. First Psalm 10 and then Psalm 93. Why this whole order? Hashem Melech, and he puts it all together. Hashem Melech is king, was king, and will be king. So firstly, he's teaching us something very profound, very powerful. And that's what we call the eternal now. The only time that really exists is now. Because tomorrow becomes now. You know, a person who says, I'm going to start my diet tomorrow. We all know what that means. It's never going to happen. Because tomorrow becomes now, it'll be the next day. You know, the past is history. Tomorrow it's philosophy, it's tomorrow. You know, they did a study, people who took a resolution to break their habit, smoking, whatever it was. Those who kept the resolution the first 24 hours were 10 times as likely to stick with it versus those who broke it the first 24 hours. Because those who broke the resolution right away, it was like an abstract, you know, one day I made a decision, one day I'm going to stop. But it never comes. It's always in the future and always will be. In the future and always will be. But someone who for the first 24 hours was able to keep the resolution, that means their frame of reference is now. I made a resolution that right now I'm going to quit smoking. The next 24 hours again, it becomes now. And the next 24 hours is now, and it can go on forever and ever. So if Hashem is king now, then Hashem was king yesterday, and Hashem will be king tomorrow. But if Hashem is not king presently, now, then there is no past, there is no future. You know, for a Jew, every moment is really an eternal moment. Every moment is connected to all previous moments. Every moment is connected with all future moments. Even something as mundane as simple. I'm thirsty, and I have to drink. I have to take a cup of water. But a Jew stops. You don't just drink. You stop, and you make a bracha. In other words, this moment becomes an eternal moment. I'm connecting my thirst, my need to drink. It becomes an opportunity to live in the moment, that this moment should become an eternal moment, connected, make a bracha, an awareness, and I verbalize, and I bless Hashem, and I connect it with Hashem. So this act, this moment now becomes connected to everything that happened till now, to all future moments. So the window to eternity begins with now, the present. That's why a Jew is always in the present. And that's why the Rebbe never took a day's vacation. You know, you only need a vacation. You need a distraction. You know, today is 24/7. People need 24/7 vacation. You know, constant distraction. 500 channels with nothing to watch. But if you're living every moment, if every moment you're living 100%, and that was the first book that the Rebbe published. It's called the Hayom Yom. So Hayom Yom could mean that every day is a day. Every day there's a message for every day. There's a purpose every day. But the real meaning is Hayom Yom, today is the day. Now is the moment. Someone once asked the Rebbe's wife, Chaya Mushka, the Rebbetzin, asked her, you know, you're a daughter of a Rebbe, you're a granddaughter of a Rebbe, you're a wife of a Rebbe, you have such a rich history, your father, your grandfather. You know, what was the most important day of your life, or what was the greatest? You know what she answered? She says, today. Today is the day. Now is the time. Hayoim yoim. Today is the day. Hashem Melech. Hashem is not in the past. Once upon a time, there used to be greatness in the shtetl and our ancestors. That's Amalek. Amalek is in Yiddish you say Amol. In the past there was greatness. Today there's nothing. Hashem Melech. Hashem is here. Hashem is king today, now, here and now. It's actual. It's real. That's the window. Then there's Hashem Melech, and then there's Hashem Yimlech. It's interesting. Alter Rebbe points out in the Tanya, in the second part of the Tanya, Shariyach Lemuna, chapter 7, that only when it comes to Hashem's royalty could we speak of past, present, and future. We don't speak about Hashem's kindness in the past, present, and future. Hashem was kind, Hashem is kind, Hashem will be kind. Because it doesn't make sense, it doesn't apply. The only place where this applies is the attribute of royalty, of being a king. But kindness, for example, if a person's kindness is to 10 people, a person's kindness is limited to one person because he doesn't have the means to help 10 people. I can only help one person. Is there a difference in the kindness if it expresses itself, am I helping one person because that's all I can do? Or if Hashem gave me means and I can help 10 people? Is there a difference in the kindness if I did kindness for a week, if I did kindness for a month, I did kindness for a year? No, it's the same kindness. I'm a kind person. It's just the external circumstances, how much I can express my kindness, how old I am, how many years I had, how many opportunities I have. But the kindness doesn't change. But when it comes to the attribute of royalty, it does make a difference. If you're a king over 5 blocks, or you're a king over an empire, a huge, gigantic territory, it makes a difference. You're a bigger king. It makes you a much bigger king. You're a small king, a tiny king. You're the king of Luxembourg, or you're the king of an empire. Putin is trying to recreate his empire. Or how long you were a king. I was a king for a day. In the Tanakh, the Torah tells us each king how long they were a king for. Or you were a king for a long time. Yosef was a king for 80 years. His kingdom extended. He was practically king, practically running the world. Paro was almost like a figurehead. But for 80 years, it means his kingdom extended for so long and over such a wide territory. So time and space become very significant when it comes to the attribute of royalty. When it comes to the attribute of kindness or wise. He was wise for a day or he was wise for a week. It doesn't mean anything. Wisdom doesn't change with time and space. Why? Because wisdom and kindness, that's something that's within. That's something that characterizes you. It's beyond time and space. It has nothing to do with anything external. It's I am a kind, loving, kind person. Of course, I love and I extend my kindness to others, but it's really a characteristic of myself. It's a description of who I am, my heart and my kindness and my goodness. That doesn't change with anything external. That's internal. Royalty, however, as the Talmud says, Ein melech b'lo yam. Royalty begins with the other person. You can't be a king over yourself. Royalty, the attribute of royalty is all about the other person. It's the other person who makes me a king. So therefore, my royalty, the attribute of royalty is defined by external. It's all about external. It's all about the other person. So therefore it's defined on how wide of a king, B'roivam hadras melech. It says, you read the Megillah, try to have as many people as possible because it's an honor for the king. If a king is a king over 10 people, it's not the same if a king is a king over 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people. It gives honor to the king. The more people, the greater the honor to the king. A kingdom that extends for a long time, it's a great honor. And that's what we say in the next verse. V'hoya Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz. Hashem is king over the whole world. That gives honor to Hashem. And that's why when we say Hashem Echad, you have to have a mind, and some even physically express it physically. The Rebbe would follow this custom. He would shake his head physically. When you say Hashem Echad, you have to crown Hashem as king over the whole world, as represented in the word Echad. Echad is Hashem is Aleph. Ches represents the 7 heavens and the earth, and Dalet represents the 4 corners of the earth, north, south, east, and west. So when the Rebbe would say Hashem Echad, like you would lift your head above, up, all the 7 heavens, down, below, and all sides. Move his head on all sides, right, left, front, back, to show that you're crowning Hashem, because you're giving glory to Hashem's kingdom when you're saying Hashem is king over the whole universe. What a king Hashem is, king of kings. He's not just the king of a tiny country. He's not just king in Crown Heights and Borough Park and Williamsburg, in Muncie, in Meir Sharim. Hashem is king over the whole universe. And we say, Hashem Melech, Hashem Melech, Hashem Yimlech Leilam Va'ad. Hashem will be king forever. He always was king, he is king, and he will be king. So Hashem's kingdom extends forever. So now Hashem's kingdom is great. This gives honor to Hashem's kingdom, to the attribute of royalty, divine attribute of royalty. Now the simple meaning of Hashem Melech, Hashem Melech, Hashem Yimlech, we're referring to Hashem Melech, Hashem is king now. Hashem Melech, Hashem was king from creation till this moment. Hashem Yimlech Leilam Va'ad. Hashem will be king forever and ever. But on a deeper level, he's actually referring to three different levels, three different stages of Hashem's royalty. Hashem Melech means now, present, in this world, the last 5,782 years. Hashem Melech refers to before creation. As we say, Adon Olam Hashem Melech b'terem kol. Hashem was king before he even created anything. He was already king. Hashem Yimlech, Hashem will be king. This is referring to Mashiach comes. After Mashiach comes, Hashem will be king. Yimlech Leilam. What does that mean? Because a king, there's different aspects to a king. The essence of a king is that the king is head and shoulders above everyone else. A king is someone that's elevated. When you're in the presence of a king, you become completely nullified. You're ennobled, you're elevated just by being in his presence. The king doesn't crush you. When you become connected to a king, as the Talmud says, the servant of a king is also a king. You become elevated because a king is elevated. A king is beyond. He's head and shoulders above everyone else in the rest of the citizens. He's just an elevated person. That's why he's chosen to be king. It says about Shaul, the first Jewish king, that is Meshich Me'elamayla, from his shoulders, he was head and shoulders above everyone. His shoulders were above everyone's head. Meaning he was on a different level. He was just an elevated person. Even when he was alone, before he was a king, he was just an elevated person. And that is really the essence of a king. The essence of a king is you have to treat him with tremendous respect. The king has to be elevated. He's not your friend. You can't go to the bathhouse with him. The king is, you have to elevate him because the king is elevated. He's just in a different nobility. He's in a different level. And that's what creates the connection, because the king is the king. He's above us. That's why he wears the crown over his head. He's above. There's a crown. He's elevated. So before there's a world, nothing to do with the world. There is no before. Hashem creates the world. He also creates time. There is no before the world. Before the world, there is no time. There is no before. It means Hashem transcends this world. Hashem is beyond this world. Nothing to do with existence, creation. Hashem is just beyond. Hashem is elevated. That's what it means. Hashem Melech, Hashem's kingdom, his attribute of royalty is something that's beyond. But then you have the king who runs his kingdom. He rolls up his sleeves and he gets involved in the nitty-gritty. He has to guide his people and make laws for his people and make sure that his people have what they eat and his people are able to succeed, commerce and everything runs smoothly. So in a way, the king is lowering himself. The king has to involve himself, engage with the people. On this level, yes, you're also in awe of the king, but it's not awe, it's more like a fear. You're afraid because the king is powerful and mighty. You know, he can chop your head off. The king is powerful. Look at how he's running the whole kingdom. So you're afraid of the king. The king is a force. You feel the force of the king in your life. The king is running the kingdom and he's running it so wisely and so it's a force. You don't start up with the king. On the higher level, when you're standing in the presence of the king, when the king is elevated and above, the king is like in himself and he's above running the country. There, you are elevated in his presence. You're in awe of the king. And you become completely nullified when you're standing in the king's presence. You just become completely nullified. Exactly the way we felt when we would stand in front of the Rebbe. Just you're in this presence of royalty. You don't feel like a squash bug. You don't feel like insignificant. On the contrary, you feel like you're elevated. You're in the presence of royalty, in the presence of such elevation and such greatness. You just you also become connected with that, and you're just in awe. You're in awe. Your ego is completely out of the way. You just become in awe. But then, when the king is engaged in running the kingdom, there the king is a force, the king is a power you have to reckon with, and then I'm afraid to start up with the king. This is the way Hashem creates the world. Hashem creates the world, so to speak. It's Hashem like engaging in the world, and he's running the world, and it creates the world of nature, and then he performs miracles to show his power. He shows us his power. He shows us how he can break nature. He can do whatever he wants, as he did in Mitzrayim, with showing all the miracles and wonders, the makkahs. Hashem showed that he's boss. He runs this world, and he can do whatever he wants with the world. Then you're afraid. I'm not starting up with the king. The king is mighty. The king is powerful. Especially Hashem, who's omnipotent and omniscient. But then you have Hashem Melech Leilam Va'ad. Hashem Melech Leilam Va'ad, this is referring to Mashiach will come. But when this verse, when was the first time this verse was said? By the splitting of the sea. What happened at the splitting of the sea? Suddenly they sang. Suddenly they recognized Hashem's kingdom. What do you mean? There were 10 plagues. Nothing. Not a word. Kriyas Yamsuf, all of a sudden, they burst out in song. And what did they say? Hashem Yimlech, Hashem will be king. What do you mean he will be king? He was king. He just experienced the splitting of the sea. What do you mean will be? They sang the song after the splitting of the sea. Why didn't they say Hashem is king, Hashem was king? No, Hashem Yimlech. Because what they experienced at the splitting of the sea was the sea opened up. The sea represents the world of nature. The world of nature, teva in Hebrew, comes from the word, it's like submerged. The water covers up. Everything is covered up. Hashem runs this world in a natural way. Everything is hidden and concealed. Everything is covered up. You don't see open miracles, open revelations. And the sea opened up, and they sensed the reality of Hashem. It says even the maid, the simplest maid, experienced a greater level of prophecy, had a greater level of seeing Hashem than even Yecheskel, the prophet Yecheskel Membuzi, standing in Babylonia and Iraq over the Nar Kvar, the river Kvar. So what they saw is the sea opened up, and they saw Hashem running the world, but we didn't just see Hashem as an administrator, as administrating the world and running the world so capably and so wisely and so powerfully. No. You saw Hashem running the world, but they sensed Hashem himself. They sensed the grandeur of Hashem, the royalty of Hashem, the greatness of Hashem. Exactly as we're going to experience when Mashiach will come. That's why they said, V'haya b'yaymahu. It will be in the future. Hashem Yimlech Leilam Va'ad. Then Hashem will reign. Because what happened with the 10 plagues, yes, Hashem showed that he's boss, he's powerful. He runs this world. That's Hashem Melech. That's Hashem running the world today. And the fact that Hashem Melech, Hashem was king, that's before he created the world. So there's no world. But when Mashiach will come, then we're going to have the combination of both attributes, both aspects. The world will continue to run. There'll be a regular world, a natural world. And yet, the world won't be a cover-up. Hashem will not be submerged. Hashem's presence, Hashem's grandeur, Hashem's greatness and royalty will be manifest. You'll walk down the street, you'll walk down Park Avenue, and you'll sense godliness. You'll sense holiness. You'll sense Hashem's presence. You'll be in awe of Hashem's presence. We'll be completely nullified and egoless because we'll sense Hashem's presence in the everyday in this world. We got a taste of it at the splitting of the sea. And that's why the Jews cried out and they sang the song and they concluded, Hashem Yimlech Leilam Va'ad. Then we're going to see Hashem's royalty in the ultimate sense, a combination of Hashem Melech and Hashem Malach. And that's why we say the verse at the end, even though this is the biblical verse. We should start with the biblical verse and then go to the verse from Psalm. No, Hashem Yimlech is the future. First is Hashem Melech. And then we realize Hashem Malach. And then we come to Hashem Yimlech Leilam Va'ad. And we say Hashem, because Hashem's name is Haya, Hoive, V'yeh Ke'echad. Hashem is past, present, and future together. We say it twice, Hashem Melech, Hashem Baal Shem Yimlech Leilam Va'ad, to emphasize, for emphasis. And then we conclude the pasuk from Zechariah, V'hoya Hashem Lemelech. Hashem will be Lemelech. Al kol haaretz, By Yoimahu Yiyah, and that day it will be Hashem Echad, Hashem will be one, Ushma Echad. On that day, Hashem will be one. All the Goyim are going to abandon their idols. And idols takes many forms, by the way. Idols doesn't necessarily mean that you're bowing down to a statue. People worship themselves. It's also an idol. Whatever you worship other than Hashem, you're turning it into an idol. People worship money. People worship success. In America, people worship success. Doesn't matter, the person could be a rotten human being, but as long as he's successful, people worship him. Doesn't matter his character, his personality. He's a successful person. Everyone bows down, everyone worships, everyone looks up to that person because he's successful. People worship love. It's also a worship. Anything that's not Hashem, if you're not worshiping Hashem, it's an idol. Mashiach will come, the world will abandon all idols, will only serve Hashem. Hashem will be king. Hashem will be one. Ushma Echad, his name will be one. It'll be in everyone's lips. Hashem will be in everyone's lips. Presently, Hashem is on a Jew's lips. You ask a Jew, how are you doing? Everything is Baruch Hashem. Not so good. Baruch Hashem, thank God. Everything is Baruch Hashem. He's on our lips. But right now it's only on our lips. When Mashiach will come, Hashem will be in 7 billion people, 8 billion people. Everyone will constantly be talking about Hashem, thinking about Hashem, and that day his name will be one. But we say, V'haya. V'haya, it was. V'haya is the same letters as Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. But he says on that day when Mashiach will come, we say Yiyah. Yiyah is Yud Kei, Yud Kei. Now it's Yud Kei Vav Kei. When Mashiach will come, it's not going to be Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's going to be Yud Kei, Yud Kei. Meaning, now we don't mention Hashem's name as it's written. We're not allowed to mention Hashem's name as it's written. Yud Kei Vav Kei, we're not allowed to pronounce it. How do we pronounce Hashem's name? Adonai. It's a different name. Yud Kei Vav Kei is past, present, future together. Adonai means Hashem is master, Hashem is boss. So it's a concealment. Hashem's name is hidden. Hashem's name is concealed. When Mashiach will come, he's saying, by Yoimahu, there will no longer be any concealment. We'll be able to speak Hashem's name as it's written. Today you're not allowed to, only in the temple. The Kohanim would say Hashem's name as it's written. But today we're not allowed to say Hashem's name as it's written. Hashem's name is hidden. Mashiach will come, and that day we'll pronounce Hashem's name as it's written. His name will be completely revealed. Yud Kei, Yud Kei. And this is a continuation of what he just said. Hashem is king, and will be king. Past, present, and future together. So that can mean one or two things. Either it can mean that you'll never grow old. Time will continue forever. Mashiach will come, time will continue forever. It'll go on and on and on. You'll never grow old. We'll always remain young. And that's the meaning of eternity. When you say eternity, eternity means that time will go on forever. If it's a level that's beyond time, you can't say eternity. Eternity means there is time, but time will go on for all eternity. It'll continue and continue, another day and another day and another day, and it'll continue and continue, and we'll stay young, we won't grow old. We'll go on and on and on. But we're still in the frame of reference of time. We're still in the framework of time. We're just extending time forever and ever. That's nitzchias, eternity. But here we're saying Mashiach will come, it's going to be something much deeper than that. By Yoimahu Yiyah Hashem Echad. Yud Kei, instead of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Mashiach will come. Time itself will be beyond time. What does that mean? Just like we found in the Holy of Holies, the Kodesh HaKadosh. In the temple we had miracles, but in the Holy of Holies we had something unique. Something special. The ark took up space. A Messiah v'chetzi arka. It's 2.5 amas in the length. Amma v'chetzi rachbe. Amma v'chetzi kemaz. It took up space, and at the same time, it didn't take up any space. Because the Holy of Holies was, let's say, 30 feet. If you measured from the end of the ark, on one end of the ark to the wall, it was 15 feet. If you measured from the other end of the ark to the wall, it was 15 feet, as if the ark didn't exist. And if you measured at the same time the ark, it took up space. It had the measurement of the Torah. It had to have the measurements of the Torah. Otherwise, it's not an ark. So it was simultaneously, it was like a paradox. You square the circle. It took up space. It didn't take up space. It took up space. I'm measuring it. It's here. It's present. And at the same time, it didn't take up any space, as if it wasn't here. It was here, it wasn't here at the same time. Square and circle at the same time. particles and waves at the same time. How is that possible? It's a paradox. It's enough to make your mind melt. It's not possible. You can't. It's like putting an elephant through a needle hole. Now, Hashem could make a miracle. Hashem could expand the needle hole so the elephant could fit. It's a miracle. Hashem could shrink the elephant that it becomes small enough it can walk through a needle hole. That's a miracle. But imagine the needle hole remaining the size of a needle hole. The elephant remaining the size of the elephant. And simultaneously the elephant walking through the needle hole. I mean, it's impossible. It's not possible. That's what happened in the Holy of Holies. It was space, but it was not space at the same time. So here you can have time and not time at the same time. No, it's time. There's time. We're living in a world of time and space. And at the same time, it's completely beyond time. Like the story of the Baal Shem Tov, the famous story of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov once traveled to one of his Hasidim. So excited, unexpected guest, the Baal Shem Tov with all his students. He put out a breakfast. He was a wealthy Jew. He put out a beautiful meal for them. And the Baal Shem Tov wrote something, and he put it in an envelope, and he sealed it, and he asked the innkeeper, do me a favor, please deliver this to the president of Brody, the Jewish community of Brody. Sure, Rebbe, anything. And meanwhile, they ran out of wine. He went down to the cellar to get some more wine, and the letter fell out of his pocket. The Baal Shem Tov leaves, he forgets all about the letter. His whole business turned around. Now suddenly he has two left hands, whatever he touches doesn't work anymore. He becomes poor. And this happened a few years later, he becomes so desperate that he doesn't have even bread to put on the table. He goes into the cellar. He said, maybe he'll find something of value, maybe a button, a golden button. He used to be very wealthy, something. And he's looking and looking, and what does he find? Finds this letter. He says, oh, now I understand why he became poor, why Hashem punished me. The Baal Shem Tov came in person. He wrote this letter. Who knows how urgent this letter was? This must have affected so many Jews. And I forgot all about it. I was so negligent. I didn't pay attention, and I just forgot about it. So immediately he decided, listen, maybe it's many years later, but maybe I can still fix it. So he takes the letter. He can't afford a horse and buggy. He's so poor. He walks. And finally, he gets to the town of Brody. The letter is addressed, I forget his first name, whatever, maybe Avram, the president of Brody. He stops someone, he says, where could I find Avram, the president of Brody? He says, who? There's no such president. What are you talking about? He says, okay, it's probably from a few years ago. You don't know. He was a young guy, so he stops an elderly person. He says, was there Avram, was he the president of Brody? He says, listen, I'm 99 years old. There was never a president, Avram of Brody. I don't know what you're talking about. He doesn't understand. As they're speaking, he hears Mazel Tov. We just elected a new president of the city of Brody. Avram became the president. But the letter is addressed to the president of the Jewish community of Brody. So everyone comes to greet the new president and, make a parade for him, pushes his way to the front. And he says, I have a letter for you from the Baal Shem Tov. He says, how is that possible? The Baal Shem Tov passed away already. He says, I don't know, but I have a letter here. It's written, Avram, the president of the Jewish community of Brody. He takes the letter, he opens it up. Baal Shem Tov writes, Mazel Tov for becoming the president. And if you doubt that I'm writing you this letter, in a moment you're going to hear another Mazel Tov. They're going to come to tell you that your wife just gave birth to a baby. That's exactly what happened. As they're speaking, everyone says Mazel Tov. On the same day that he becomes the president, he just had another Mazel Tov. Baal Shem Tov says, why am I writing you this letter? I'm writing you this letter because it's a very good Jew, chassid of mine, who fell in very hard times. I'm asking you a favor, please use your influence, try to help him to get back on his feet. That's what it means, time, it's beyond time. Baal Shem Tov lived in this world, there's time, there's space, but the time itself was beyond time. Baal Shem Tov saw things a decade before, he saw what's going to happen, it's already happened. Past, present, and future together, it already happened. He's now, and it already happened. So that's the ultimate. When we say past and present and future will be together, there won't be any disconnect. There won't be any disconnect between the Yud-K. The Vav is like a disconnect. The Vav, like, you have to draw down the Yud-K into the Vav-K. The Vav is like a thin line. Yud-K, there's no disconnect. That even in time, the time and space itself will become connected. You'll see the essence of Hashem, and the time and space itself will become beyond time and space. So you'll simultaneously, in the world of nature, Hashem Yimlech Leilam Vad, in the world of nature you'll see and sense the greatness of Hashem, the grandeur of Hashem, the crown of Hashem. There won't be any concealment whatsoever. Hashem will be completely manifest and revealed. And everything that we're saying here is just a little taste, just to give a little taste of each prayer is so powerful and so meaningful. And we say this every day, and we stand up and we rise, that we should realize what a powerful prayer this is. And there's so much more. This is just the tip of the iceberg.